Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. Thank you so much to everyone who subscribed to my channel after my last video, and thank you guys so much for watching it. That video did amazing compared to everything else on my channel, so I really appreciate everyone who watched that video and came from Reddit and came from everywhere to support my channel. Thank you guys so much. So today is my 25th birthday. I'm actually filming this early, but you guys will see it on my birthday. So I'm 25 today, and I thought it would be really fun to film 25 things I've learned by 25. 25 is a big birthday, and so I've been spending this week kind of thinking about my life so far, what I've accomplished, and things that I want to accomplish, and also things that I've learned over the course of my 25 years. Of course, 25 is hopefully just a fraction of my life, and I have lots more to learn, but I wanted to share some things with you that might be helpful to you, whether you're younger than me, older than me, or around the same age. I broke these into 3 categories. So the first one is self-improvement. So these are kind of personal self-development type of things that I have learned or that I've been working on. The second category is relationships. So not just romantic relationships, but relationships with your friends, your family, or anybody that you come in contact with. And the third category is quality of life. So things that you can carry with you into the rest of your life, and maybe ways you can improve your life. Of course, I should also say that I'm still young, and these are not all things that I have mastered. This is not necessarily advice or expertise that I'm giving to you by any means, but many of these things I have learned, but I'm still working on. So I just wanted to share them, thought it would be fun and maybe could help somebody. So with all that said, let's just jump right into it. 25 things I learned by 25. The first category is self-improvement, and the number one thing that I have learned in my 25 years is how to advocate for myself. This is a really important skill that took me a long time to master, and I have not fully mastered it, but I have become way more comfortable with advocating for myself. I'll give some examples. One of the first things I can really strongly remember advocating for myself for is when I started college. So I went to St. John's College in Annapolis, Maryland, and when I was admitted as a prospective student and I came to visit, I got my financial aid award offer, and it was about $10,000 short of what I would actually need in order to afford to attend the school. So I scheduled a meeting with the financial aid department, and I just walked in and I was like, listen, I really want to come here. I love this school. I love the classes. I love the structure. It's unique. It's like nothing else. But listen, I need $10,000 more a year on my offer so I can come here. And they gave it to me. I had a speech prepared, I had some points that I wanted to go through, and their office was very receptive to hearing that, and they liked me as a student. They could see that I had a passion to come to their school, and so they accepted it, and I was able to afford St. John's, which was insane. I never thought I would be able to afford college at all, much less a private college. So advocate for yourself, ask for the things you need. Another example would be a job that I had during college. That was one of my most formative jobs, one of my favorite jobs that I've ever had. I was hired there as a sales associate at this little boutique in Annapolis, and I worked there for about a month, and the store did not have a manager. And so after a month, I decided I was gonna approach the owner and tell her that I should be the manager. So I had, again, a speech prepared, some points that I wanted to go through, and I didn't just waltz in there like, hi, make me the manager. But, I told her I think that you could really use more help with organizing and managing the space. She was very busy and overwhelmed because she was running the store by herself. So I was like, listen, I can take some of this off your plate. I was only, I think, 20 years old at that time, and I had never managed anything, but she agreed, and she saw that I had passion for it and that I would be good at it. And so we worked together to start managing the store, and she promoted me. I worked for her for 3 years as her manager. I love her. I still work for her to this day remotely. And that started my whole trajectory of doing freelance and working for small businesses and doing social media and websites. So I really appreciate not only that she gave me that chance, but that I asked for it. She never might have approached me if I hadn't advocated for myself and told her I want to do this. Number 2 is taking my health seriously. So this is something I've really started to get focused on in the last 6 months or so. I have gone back to therapy and started working on my mental health. I have started seeing different doctors and specialists to deal with some other health issues I have going on. I have a variety of different weird things all going on at once. And so I decided to stop living with chronic pain and stop accepting it for what it was, and actually try to go to the doctor, get some answers, get some treatments, get something that I can at least try or work on. And that has made a huge difference in my life. I'm still working through a lot of that stuff. I don't have answers for all of my problems yet, but it's something that I'm working on. I think at 25, it's really setting into me how important my health is. And so that's something that I do not want to neglect and something I really need to take seriously. Number 3 is you can survive hard things. I've spent a lot of time, especially in the last few days, thinking back to myself like 10 years ago when I was 15 and how difficult my teenage years were, and just the fact that I survived some of that. I don't want to get too much into it right now, but I went through a lot of really difficult things when I was in my teenage years, and I never honestly thought I would live to be 25. And so being here now, I feel like I have overcome really difficult things in my life. I've overcome difficult relationships, difficult health issues. So that gives me a lot of strength and a lot of resilience towards anything that comes up in the future that's difficult. I have survived before and I will survive again. Number 4 is how to ask for help. And specifically when I wrote this one, I was thinking about going back to therapy and just realizing that I needed help with my mental health and feeling kind of embarrassed or unsure about how to navigate that, but now feeling this new sense of it's okay to ask for help. If you need help, you should ask for it. I also often come to my parents when I need advice about something. I always ask my dad. I call him up and I say, Dad, I need some dad advice. And giving myself the freedom to do that and ask for help when I need it has been really helpful in navigating my problems in life. Number 5 is it takes time to get good at things, and everyone is bad at first. And the example that I always think about when I think about this concept is little kids who are learning to play the violin. So when you're in like 3rd or 4th grade and you sign up for orchestra class and you're learning to play the violin, you're not very good at it. You're very bad at it for many years. Have you ever heard a child play the violin? It doesn't sound right. It's very screechy. It's very awful. I played the viola when I was a kid, so my parents know exactly how that is. But you don't get to be first chair in your orchestra at the end of high school or playing in a professional orchestra if you never started playing the violin in 3rd grade and were bad at it. You know? And the difference with children is that they don't know that they're bad at things. They don't feel shame about being bad at things. And so it's easier for them to just keep going and not give up and get really great at something. Whereas adults, when we start something new, we're not good right away and we tend to get very discouraged, or at least I do. But I think learning that everyone is bad when they start, everyone has to learn, everyone has to improve, has really helped me a lot in feeling more freedom to pursue things that I might otherwise not do, that I might feel embarrassed about. And chiefly among them is probably this YouTube channel. I thought about doing YouTube for like 2 or 3 years before I finally made my first video. And that's because I was embarrassed that I would be bad at it. I was embarrassed that people wouldn't like it, the videos would be embarrassing. But you know, once I let it sink in, everyone is bad at first, it takes time to get good. It gave me so much freedom to just try it out, pursue it, see if I like it. And it turns out that I do. And I'm so glad that I gave myself that space. That's not to say that I'm the best with YouTube or with anything. I'm really not. I'm always learning. But just feeling the freedom to start pursuing these things is really useful. Number 6 is sometimes finished is better than perfect. This is something my mom used to say to me a lot when I was a kid. Sometimes, depending on the project, it's better to just be finished with it than have it be perfect. Something that's completed is better than something that's 75% done perfectly but not finished. I always like to finish things strong and do my best to finish strong and finish complete, but sometimes just finishing at all is better than finishing perfect, because sometimes it's not possible to finish perfect, and that is okay. Number 7, this is something I've said before on my channel, a goal without a plan is a wish. Something I've become much more attentive of in my 20s is goal setting rather than dreams or a bucket list or these sort of things. Like, I really want to start making goals, not just having wishes and dreams and things that I wish I could do or that I want to do, but having a plan. So what do I want? How am I going to get it? I think setting goals instead of just having a list of things that I want to do has helped me a lot with actually accomplishing those goals. Number 8 is if you're angry or you're sad, you might actually just be hungry. This is something that happens to me a lot. I get really moody, especially in the afternoon. I get really down. I feel like I can't keep going, or I just want to lay in my bed and do nothing. And it turns out that oftentimes when I feel angry or I feel sad, really, I'm just hungry. And after I eat, I don't feel that way anymore. So try that out next time you're not feeling so great. Try eating a meal or having a snack and seeing if you feel any better. Number 9 is to ask for advice from people you trust when you're not sure what to do. And I find that this is really helpful because even if the advice that you receive is not what you wanted or not really helpful to you, I think sometimes even that advice will help you realize what you really wanted anyway. There's that thing of like, if you toss a coin and heads is supposed to be one option and it comes up heads, and once you see that, then you realize you really wanted the other thing. I think that's sort of how I deal with advice sometimes. Like, I'll ask somebody for advice and I don't necessarily always follow what they say, but whatever they say will help me determine what I really want anyway. And number 10, and the last one in the self-improvement category, is knowing your limits and knowing when to take a break. This is something I've struggled with for many years. I kind of have the personality where sometimes I just start working on something and don't stop, and all these hours go by, and then at the end of it, I feel tired and sick and unwell, and that's never good for my mental health. So being really self-aware of my limits and writing down if I do something and it doesn't make me feel good, if I eat something and I don't like it, or anything like that, writing down what you don't like, writing down what's too much for you is really helpful in the future for when you need to set your limits or schedule a time for yourself to take a break or stop, or even take a whole day off or take a vacation, whatever that looks like. Knowing your limits in advance is really useful for setting that time for yourself so you can actually relax when you're supposed to relax. Okay, now we're in the next category, which is relationships. Number 11 is to accept people how they are. This has been something that I think everyone goes through and learns. It's been really difficult for me, and the example that I thought of right away was my dad. So my dad is very shy. He's very keeping to himself. He does not like social events. He gets really nervous in public. I think he has some like sort of social phobia or something to that effect, although he would probably never put it that way. But he is not like a lot of other people's dads. He's very private. He's very personal. He doesn't have a lot of friends. He doesn't go to any social events. I mean, the man doesn't even go to church, even though he's religious, because he's so uncomfortable around people in public situations. And when I was growing up, I was really resentful of that and embarrassed of that, and I just wish that my dad would be like other dads. And my friends' dads were so friendly, and they would ask us questions, and they would take us to see movies and fun things like that, and my dad was just never like that. And I went through a long time of being very resentful of him and wishing that he was different. That just brought me a lot of pain, and it put a lot of stress on my relationship with my dad. So when I was in high school, we had a really negative, difficult relationship because I thought of him that way. So when I was in college and I kind of started realizing that this is who my dad is. He's always been this way. He'll never be different. He's content that way also. That's another thing, is that I think I was often projecting my own feelings onto him of like, how do you not want to be social? Like, I love to be social. I love to have friends. Like, he just wasn't like that. And it was very confusing and frustrating to me. So once I realized that that's just how he is, it gave me a lot of peace and a lot of space to get to know my dad the way that he is, and to accept him and to love him and improve our relationship. So I think that advice kind of goes for any relationship that you're in, whether it's your parents, your friends, your partner, anybody. You need to accept them how they are and meet them where they are. And I think once you're able to do that, you're much better informed of how to continue a relationship with that person, whether you don't want to continue it or whether you want to continue it in a different way, in a healthier way. I think that accepting people how they are is one of the most valuable things you can do in a relationship with anyone. Number 12 is, it's okay if not everyone likes you. This is another kind of classic one that my mom would say to me a lot when I was a kid. Well, that sounds bad. That makes it sound like my mom knew that people didn't like me. But I have always had kind of like a polarizing personality, I think. Like, I think that there are people that I've been around in my life who just don't vibe with me. They don't like me. We don't get along. We don't see things the same way. And that's fine. That's something that I used to be really self-conscious of. I wanted everyone to like me. I wanted to do right by everyone. I wanted to get along with everyone. That's just not a reality. There are people that will not like you no matter what. There are people who will love you no matter what. So I think that finding your people and not worrying so much about people that don't like you is really valuable. Number 13 is, you can't fall in love with someone's potential. This was a piece of advice that a friend gave to me years ago when I was going through a really difficult relationship, and that was very helpful to me, and it has stayed with me through the rest of my relationships. So if you like somebody or you love them and you can imagine your life together, you can imagine what they would be like, and you so desperately wish that they would just be like that, that is what potentially they would be and not what they are. This is kind of related to the idea of accepting people how they are. You can't fall in love with the potential of somebody. You have to fall in love with who they are right now. And if they change or if you change, that's great. Maybe that's for the negative, for the positive, but You have to love somebody as they are right now and not wish for the future, because I think you'll be left disappointed. Number 14 is finding the balance between putting yourself first and your partner first. So this is also something that I've struggled with in my relationships in the past, is that sometimes I feel like I am putting my partner first, but they're putting themselves first, which means that no one puts me first and then I get left out. And that can happen in the reverse as well. So I think that there needs to be sort of a healthy balance between, you're in a relationship because you like that person and you want what's best for them. So in some ways you want to put them first and put their needs first, but you also don't want to forget about yourself and what you need. So I think that having a healthy balance on both sides of loving yourself, advocating for yourself, doing what you need for yourself, but also putting them first in some ways and seeing their perspective and caring about what they think and what they have to say. Somewhere in the middle of that is a really healthy relationship. Aristotle also talks about that, but that's for another video. Number 15 is, if the good times are really good, but the bad times are terrible, that person is not for you. This is something that I learned the hard way. I was in a very, very toxic relationship before I was with Sean. And it went on for so long because the good times that I had with that person were really lovely, really beautiful, really fun and exciting and philosophical, and that's why I wanted to stay with them. But the negative parts of our relationship were soul-crushingly bad. So bad. They made me feel the worst about myself that I have ever felt in my life. And they would say things to me sometimes like that when they were upset with me, they would say, I want you to hurt. I'm doing this because I want you to feel bad. And like, that's not even subtle. They were coming right out and telling me, like, in some ways they hated me or they wanted me to feel like garbage. And that is not a worthwhile relationship to be in. No height of a relationship is worth feeling that low in the bad times. So if you're with somebody that is treating you that way, get away, find someone else. You will find somebody that loves you for you, that wants you to be happy, that would never say those things to you. Find someone you can be with where the good times are great and the bad times are still okay. Number 16, and this is a bit of a silly one, but don't let a guy that you're hooking up with give you a stick and poke tattoo. This is something I learned from watching it happen to somebody else, luckily, and not it happening to me, although it very nearly happened to me. I was dating this guy who had some tattoo needles and some tattoo ink, who wanted to teach himself how to do stick and poke tattoos, and I was gonna let him give me one, and I'm so glad that I did not. He did one on my friend first, and it came out looking terrible, and I'm so glad that I did not let him do that for me. So just in general, don't let somebody that you like convince you to do something that otherwise you probably wouldn't do, or that isn't a really good idea. That's a silly one though. I thought I would throw a couple silly ones in there. Number 17 is how to have a productive disagreement. So the way that Sean and I try to deal with our problems, and something that is really useful for me that's different from any other relationship I've been in, is that when we fight, we try our best to fight the problem and not fight against each other. I think in a lot of my relationships, even like with my parents, my relationship with them, sometimes when we fight, you're just fighting against that person and you're not fighting the problem. So if you're in a heated argument or if you're having a disagreement with somebody, step back and try to figure out, okay, what is the problem here? Like, what are we actually fighting about? And try to attack that problem instead of attacking the other person. That has been a huge game changer to me in how I deal with my relationship and my friendships. And I just wanted to share that in case you've never heard that before. It really made a huge difference in how I relate to my boyfriend and my friends. And the last one in this category, number 18, is how to apologize after I've done something wrong or I've hurt somebody. This is something that I used to be very resistant to doing. I was really prideful about everything that I said in an argument and that it was justified and that I deserved to talk like that. And sometimes it really wasn't. And I think that having more self-awareness of sometimes the things that you say, especially when you're heated, they're not nice things and they're not the right thing to say to somebody. And I think that having respect for that person will drive you to apologize for what you said or how you said something that was wrong. I think that being the first one to admit that you said something wrong and not waiting for them to bring it up in another argument or something like that is a really big thing to do. And it shows that you care about that person. And I think that they'll appreciate hearing that from you if you say something to hurt somebody, to own up to it right away and apologize. So the last category is quality of life. And these are things that have really made a huge difference in my life once I started thinking about them or doing them. So I just wanted to share them with you guys too. So number 19 is the joy of having a pet. Most people have pets when they're kids, I guess. I did not. My first pet was Button, who we got about 1.5 years ago. He was my first pet ever in life. Never even had a fish, never had any like silly old little pet until I had Button, and he is the best. And shortly after we adopted Button, we adopted a second cat, Coral, and they have made a huge difference in my quality of life having pets. Everyone that has pets knows what I'm talking about, so maybe I don't really need to explain this, but it just makes me so happy to see them. They're always happy to see me. They love us unconditionally. Like, they're just good and pure, perfect creatures. And having that in my life when I had never had that for almost 25 years is a really special thing, and I'm so glad that I have it. So if you've never had a pet, consider getting one if you can. At least for me, it made a huge difference in my quality of life. Number 20 is to surround yourself with people who inspire you. This is something that I've made an effort to do more, especially in the last year or so, is connect with people in my community that are doing something that I want to be doing. One of my good friends from high school and beyond now lives in LA. He's a really big video producer and film director. He started off shooting like little commercials with me in high school, like little silly projects for our theater program. And now he's living in LA doing like big budget projects. And I feel so fortunate to know him and to be inspired by him and to observe his work. It makes me feel like I can do that too. Another friend of mine, I met her through work. She was our fashion photographer for the boutique that I worked at. She's mainly a wedding photographer. And so I've started learning from her, observing her on social media. I second shot a wedding with her. And it just makes me feel really inspired again to see young people who are around my age owning their own businesses, doing their own creative projects, being successful, seeing the way they navigate the world is really inspiring to me to do the same thing. So if you are in any kind of creative field, find somebody that you can look up to who's successful at what you want to be doing and just observe them, see what they're doing, and try to follow along and do that in your own way. Number 21, one of the most important things to invest in is a good mattress. So over the summer, Sean and I invested in a king size, very nice mattress. And it's my first nice mattress of life, and it is literally life-changing to have an amazing mattress. Especially for somebody that has chronic pain like me, having a nice mattress that we invested money in. It was not a cheap mattress. Most expensive thing I have ever bought, ever, probably that I ever will buy in the near future, but it was so worth it. My sleep is so much better. I get a full night's sleep, I feel comfortable, and I don't start every day in pain, which just makes a huge difference to the quality of my life. There's that saying that you should always invest in things that come between you and the ground. So that would be like your mattress, your tires, and your shoes. And I really believe in that having a good mattress is like one of the basic foundations of having a good life. Number 22 is always research your landlord. This one is kind of a silly one, but also not at all. So I won't go into the full story because I do want to tell a story time about this, maybe when more time has passed since this happened. But in the past, I lived in an apartment where after moving out, after some drama when moving out, I discovered that the landlord had embezzled a very, very large sum of money from a very, very large group. Yeah, we found out that he was not a good person. He had stolen a very big amount of money. He was really shady and really scary. And so kind of silly. I mean, like, what? I couldn't believe that when I read like the amount of money and where it came from. But yeah, definitely research your landlord, research your leasing company, research the property, research as much as you can before you move in somewhere so that you avoid a horror story or a terrible living situation, especially because most leases are for a year. So you don't want to be stuck somewhere with a horrible landlord who's done all kinds of shady things that you might have known about if you had Googled him, or at least I would have if I had Googled my landlord. Number 23 is learning to be vulnerable and putting myself out there. Again, I think this is really related to YouTube, at least when I think of this, that's what I think of. Starting YouTube was something that I avoided doing because I didn't want to be vulnerable. I didn't want people to dislike me or make fun of me or think that what I was doing was stupid. So it's held me back from pursuing something that I really wanted to pursue. And once I started putting myself out there and just being vulnerable, especially something like my last video, which I worked so hard on, I didn't know if anyone would like it or even care. And then it got an amazing response because I put myself out there. So definitely do that. If there's something you're on the fence about starting, whether it's a new job or you want to make a TikTok or you want to, I don't know, anything that's like creative or different or out there, just do it, or at least try it out. And you might be surprised with the results you see, as I was definitely with my last video. Number 24 is you can't change the world, but you can change your community. This is something I've been thinking a lot, especially in the last year during 2020 with all of the stuff happening with Trump and politics and Black Lives Matter and all these important movements that are going on. Sometimes it can be really overwhelming to think how much suffering there is in the world, how many people there are who disagree with basic principles of people living their lives and just being free to do regular things. People are suffering, people are hurting. There's more that we could do to stop it and we don't. And that sometimes makes me feel so overwhelmed that I just want to shut down and give up and stop trying to talk to anyone because people are set in their ways and they're never going to listen to me. But something that's been comforting to me is that I'm not responsible for changing the whole world. I'm responsible for changing me, and I'm responsible for changing the people that I love and the people that I know. So I think that if there's people in your life that disagree with you or that don't believe the way that you do about very important principles, just talk to them. Those are the ones you can change. You don't have to worry about the whole world. You don't have to worry about people that are really nasty and set in their ways and don't want to listen to you. But if you have people that you can talk to in a kind way, in a respectful way, I think that you should, because you can change your own community. You're not responsible for changing everyone, you're just responsible for changing you. And if there is no one in your community that wants to change, you can change and you can be better. And that's something that has been really comforting to me, especially in such a difficult year. And the last one, number 25, is sometimes the hardest part of things is starting them. This is something I've been dealing with my whole life. I'm terrible about not wanting to start things, being really resistant to new projects, but once I start them, I can't stop and I love working on them. Even things like cooking a meal, like I'll be so resistant to getting up and cooking myself dinner, but once I'm cooking, I realize I love cooking. I love doing this. This is so much fun. Sometimes the hardest part of something is just getting started. So if you can figure out what in your life will kind of push you through your barriers to get you started on the thing that you're avoiding or dreading, just do that. Learn what that is for you and start employing that in your life so that you can get things done, you can have joy in your life, and you can move on. Don't let yourself be held back because you just can't start. So guys, those are my 25 things that I learned by 25. I hope they were interesting or fun or inspiring for you to hear. I would love to hear something that you've learned in your life experience. Please leave it in a comment down below and I'll respond to all of them. And let me know if anything that I said here was useful to you. I'd love to start a conversation in the comments about if you view things differently than me, or if I said something you've never heard before, let me know. I'd love to talk about it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Bye!